Huh. I never thought they'd actually make Canada the game.
Hello everyone, this is The Average Gamer, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Long Dark, a game created by the independent game studio Hinterland in northern Vancouver, Canada. The Long Dark is the studio's first official release, and at time of writing is currently in the sandbox alpha version .244. Hinterland's mission is, and I quote directly from their website here, to create thought-provoking entertainment, emphasizing story-rich gameplay experiences and original fictional settings conceived from the ground up to exist across multiple mediums. It's quite a large task for a studio that's only existed for about 3 years. The Long Dark is a survival game set in the northern Canadian wilderness. Set after some kind of natural disaster, your plane goes down and you're the only survivor. At least, that's what you think. You'll spend your time scavenging for supplies, food, warmer clothing, water, and other tools to help you survive. The game is $21.99 Canadian on Steam, but the question remains, in this game's current form, is it worth your money? I'm hoping to give you some insight into that, more than just a flat score out of 10. Cool things that the game does, and things that might turn you off depending on your personal taste in games. Now, anyone on my friends list on Steam can tell you that I'm somewhat of a survival game fanatic. I've built, lived, and scavenged in the Canadian wilderness, on the open seas and deserted islands, and died to zombies, dinosaurs, and other players. So when it comes to survival games, I will admit having a preference. But that's neither here nor there. Being an alpha, it's suffice to say that the game has quite a few things lacking from it that would make this game superb. The story is one of them. Right now, there's no story mode in the game, only a sandbox mode that plops you down in one of the random spots in the map and lets you find your own way around. So this review will be about the sandbox mode and what I think about it. First, I'll speak about how the actual survival aspects works, the thing that should be the core of these kind of games. In my opinion, the most important part of any game that wants to label itself as survival is the game's personal health systems. Now, a game that tries to go for a more realistic survival experience usually puts forward the concept of trying to manage your character's basic needs, hunger, thirst, and what have you. In The Long Dark, there are 4 basic needs that your character has: hunger, thirst, cold, and energy. These are all things that the player must keep an eye on, and if their bars ever get to full, your condition starts to decrease. Condition is a measure of your overall health, how your character is doing. If it ever hits 0, you will die, and you have to start over again. You deal with these needs in ways you would expect. Eating, sleeping, keeping inside when it's cold, and drinking. It's actually quite nice to keep both the way that you view these things and how you solve them obvious and simple, considering that the game has no tutorial to speak of. And truthfully, that's how I prefer it. Being dropped into a world with no knowledge of anything and no pop-up tutorials is always more fun. When we're talking about survival games, there are usually 2 camps when it comes to the place you'll be playing it: randomly generated or a set-size location. The Long Dark, at least in its current form, has 3 maps all attached to one another, meaning one can walk from one to the other and the map itself stays consistent. The items that one can find are of course randomized, but all locations, most buildings, and the area remain the same each time you start again. This has an obvious downside in the sense that your first couple playthroughs will be interesting, exploring new places, wondering what that bump in the distance is, and if it has any food or supplies. But if you put enough hours into it, the way you think begins to change slightly. It's not about exploring anymore, but landmarks that you know. Instead of experiencing the hesitation of leaving a shelter in an effort to find a better one, you begin to learn the layout, where the best buildings are, and plot a course in your head. This continuously takes away from the player's survival experience as they put more and more hours into the game. But this design choice, of course, has an upside. For new players, it's fun, it's challenging, and it's survival. Randomly generated maps have a tendency to be new player unfriendly, requiring multiple deaths to learn things that you should know from the beginning. One of the harshest mistresses to a new player is an unfavorable seat on their world map, and her weird whip thing is not knowing the basic gameplay mechanics. I remember one survival game where I didn't know how to check my character's hunger and thirst for the first 3 hours of gameplay. And to players new to the genre who haven't played survival games before, these things can be deal breakers. Luckily, The Long Dark is a great game to get started in for those interested in the genre, but for the more senior survivors, it can get somewhat monotonous. The game's art style is, in my opinion, somewhat cartoony in nature, and actually made me raise an eyebrow when I started it up for the first time. But truth be told, it works. It looks good, and for some reason, it just suits the game's overall feel. The loneliness of being the only human in the area, coupled with the dangers of the wilderness, seems more powerfully accented by the almost gleefully made dead trees and burnt-out buildings. One last thing I wanted to mention. As I was looking up information on the developer, I was struck by a sentence on their website. Quoting them directly, "Hinterland's games are imbued with a sense of social awareness and aspire to provide immersive, sophisticated worlds to anyone seeking a mature gaming experience." I'm going to sound a bit like an asshole here, but I feel it's right to say, Hinterland, I'm not sure you should punch that ticket just yet. When all I have to go on is a roaming sandbox mode with no story, I feel like claiming social awareness and story-rich gameplay will be jumping the gun slightly. This isn't to say that the sandbox mode is bad, of course. I put many hours into it and still had loads of fun. And I'm still discovering some new locations once in a while.
But at the same time, I don't feel like this game is particularly story-rich, socially aware, or mature in its current form. The struggle for survival in foreign areas has always been a serious topic. Wandering the woods with wolves howling all around you can cause some checking over your shoulder, but the sandbox mode doesn't really dive into that beyond a few choice phrases from your character when their bars are getting full, and some jump scares when a wolf leaps on you. There is one thing, however, that I would absolutely commend the developers for, and that is their bear attack sequence. Bears in-game are usually docile if you keep your distance, but will charge the player and maul them if they're attacked or approached. The sequence you saw was the full animation of the bear attack. There's no skipping it. Your only hope is to stop clicking and play dead. You're forced to watch the bear maul your character while they scream and try to push a creature off them. This is the consequence of your actions. No button prompts or bear health. If you survive, you're left stumbling, bleary-eyed, and bleeding, barely on your feet. Now, from what I've been reading, the story mode is supposed to have NPCs with choices based on doing right by them or hoarding supplies for yourself. And while that does really sound like it could be everything Hinterland claims that they strive towards, I wouldn't be doing this review justice if I gave points for things that could happen. Now, back to our first question. Is this game in its current state worth the money? Well, the answer to this question really depends on people's personal taste in games. If you like survival, Canada, and the points I put across, check it out. And if you think that this game isn't your cup of tea, fair enough. Hopefully the next game I review will be something that you enjoy more. This is The Average Gamer. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next review.